Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Council meeting for September 17th. Please rise, pledge allegiance. Councilman Winthrop, please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ingman. Here. Counselor Calla. Present. Counselor Christopher.
Here.
Counselor Boncory.
Here.
Counselor DeMarco.
Here.
Counselor Farino.
Here.
Counselor Conti.
Present.
Vice President Lettieri.
Yep.
President Vecchio.
Present.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the September 3rd minutes
Motion.
of the Town Council meeting. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Our first item of business tonight is to recognize a gentleman that after 39 years on the Winthrop Police Department, where is he? There he is. David. David's here with his family. David, come on up. David. David, of course, the name Lassard in the town of Winthrop is synonymous with giving back. Your dad was on the cemetery commission for many, many years, and Kathy is running the senior center at this particular.
Yes,
And of course, you were around for 39 years.
yeah,
So
almost
you-
made 40,
Almost made 40.
but
But I
Did well.
appreciate your sacrifices, certainly yourself and any first responder. I have to hand it to you. You're special people.
thank you very
And
much.
I speak on behalf of the council to thank you for your 39
Thank
years
you.
of service, and we're going to present you with this citation that even has a cover on it.
Yes.
You're the first one that got a cover.
So cover,
You got a cover.
beautiful.
Got a cover. So the Town of Winthrop Town Council citation, be it known to all, that the Winthrop Town Council hereby offers its congratulations to Lieutenant David Lassard in recognition for 39 years in the Winthrop Police Department. On behalf of the residents of the town of Winthrop, we extend our most sincere congratulations to Lieutenant Lassard in his retirement, and thank you for your contributions as a compliance officer, overseer of the Winthrop Marine and Harbor Unit Patrol. He launched the first mountain bike unit, president of the Winthrop Police Department Lieutenants Union, and the numerous accomplishments during your years as a police officer. We wish you only the best in your future endeavors. Given the 17th day of September 2019 at Winthrop, Massachusetts, Ron Vecchio, Town Council President, James Lettieri, Vice President, Richard Farino, Nick LaConte, Robert DeMarco, Linda Calla, Peter Christopher, Heather Engman, and Philip Boncory. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for the call. Thank you very much.
David.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Public comment. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you very much. Suzanne Hitchcock-Ryan. I'm a retired nurse, and I have a master's in public health. Precinct 3. I support the single-use plastic bag ban proposed by the Board of Health, which you will hear about shortly. Now, perhaps you're wondering, what do plastic bags have to do with health? So please hear me out. I take care of my grandchildren, Eli, age 4, and Nora, age 2, in Ashland. Ashland has just had its risk level for Eastern equine encephalitis raised to critical. Massachusetts now has 8 cases of triple E. And our last outbreak was 2012. So far, Suffolk County is okay. But we are wetter, we are warmer, and this makes mosquito breeding more aggressive. Lyme disease, which is carried by ticks, has tripled in the United States since 2009. Ticks are surviving over our warmer winters. Now, these are just two of the numerous health ramifications of our warming world. And why are we warming? Well, you know why we're warming. Because of the increased atmospheric greenhouse gas emissions, carbon dioxide and methane. And we are increasing those because of drilling and burning for fossil fuels. So please just know this. Plastic bags, which are made from fossil fuels, contribute to rising greenhouse gas emissions at every stage of their life cycle. From drilling, to processing, to production, and to how their waste is managed. Global warming is a public health crisis, but we do have solutions, if only we would use them. And it's time for Winthrop to join the other 122 Massachusetts communities who have banned single-use plastic bags. It is an important first step in decreasing our plastic use and choosing planet and its inhabitants. Thanks very much.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Mariella Sharkey, precinct 1 or 2. Anyway, I think that every single person in this room has had some connection to our ocean and our sea. Whether it's sat on the wall for the first time as a young person and continued, whether we've sat on the sand, whether we felt the beautiful breezes off our ocean, whether we've swam in it, whether we have sailed in it, whether we have fished in it. And some of us have even made our living off of the ocean. Today, Bill Schmidt and his committee will be doing a presentation to all of you involving the elimination of single-use plastic bags in our town. This is one picture, if I may, a picture of a shorebird that was totally encompassed by a plastic bag, covered its face, and it died. This is another picture of plastic bags that was taken out of the stomach of a whale that died and washed ashore. As you can see, all of the plastic bags that have been taken out of its stomach. Though this is not just about plastics, it does show you other shorebirds who are absolutely, totally engulfed with plastics in its stomach. Many of the shorebirds and the shore animals, they see plastic, especially single-use plastics, as, what are they called?
Jellyfish?
Yeah, the fish that go in the sea. And they cannot tell the difference between, all right? As you can see, the seals are entangled in the shore lines that fishermen, not on purpose, but drop along the coast. We have a sea turtle that was strangled by plastics, and I think we can all see they come from soda cans or beer cans, and people just erratically throw them in the shore. And then, of course, we see that a seal was totally strangled. And we know that all of these animals must come down and then go back up for air. So in closing, I just would like to say, in showing, one of the artists from New York decided to put together all of the different plastics he found out of the sea and color-coded them into plastic colors. And as you can see, we have blue, we have white, we have green, and then actually these are pens that he found on the shore of New York speeches. So today I'm asking you, as Mr. Schmidt does his presentation, to really take seriously his presentation on his ordinance that he is going to present you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kathleen Capuccio, Precinct 2. Three things, and I'm going to try to be quick, which I never am, but I think I'm going to be tonight. One is with regard to the ATC Park, so the Arthur T. Cummings Park is across the street. Huge applause to Councilor Rob DeMarco that had the courage to bring this forth publicly before the council to say that this really needs to be addressed. And I think I can say this. I will also say kudos to Don Manning, who maybe doesn't always say things as gently as people would like. Don Manning has fought so hard and does not have children at this school to help it, to show us what's going on. So I commend you, Rob, for bringing this forth. It's not easy when you're frankly a newbie on the council to bring something that might be, you know, a little scary. So I truly commend you that you did that, and I hope that the council votes favorably. I will say that I've heard rumors that people would like to see, which is not totally set up yet, the new Winthrop Foundation maybe fund some of this. I'll point you to one thing why they should not. That's the original mitigation agreement with the MWRA back in the day. I know there hasn't been a specific mission statement set forth for the Winthrop funds, and I think I'm referring to it the right way. It is not to correct or to make up for what the town hasn't done. This needs to be done. The Winthrop Foundation, to my knowledge, is for one-time grants for specific items. The town needs to handle this. Understandably, whether it be through the town budget, the school budget, however you do it, it needs to be handled. But again, to Rob, kudos to you for bringing this up. The next one is a question, which I know per our town manager in the last meeting, he doesn't want the council himself engaging with the public. So maybe he can get back to me in email, or you would like to. I'd like a little clarification on the bike lane feasibility study for Veterans Road. If that does get voted on, where is the money coming from? Is it a grant? Is it coming from our town? Where is the money coming from? So again, I know you shouldn't engage, so I would never ask you to do such a thing. The other thing is our town manager's evaluation. I understand that 7 of the 9 counselors responded to the evaluation per the 9-3 meeting. One was Robert DeMarco, who chose not to, and I've had a conversation and I'm allowed to say this, did not respond because he's new on the council. Another counselor, I have a Freedom of Information request in, did not respond to the evaluation, so I'm not sure who that is. I did watch the 9-3 meeting on YouTube. I wasn't unable to attend. The one thing I would like our town manager, clearly not now, because that would be inappropriate, to respond. What section of the charter says that our town manager works for the town president, town council president? It was said, again, vis-a-vis through Mr. Lettieri, obviously I'm not speaking verbatim, that whatever this incentive bonus program is, he feels his contract is with the town council president. No, it is not. There is a process that the town council president suggests people to be town manager, then the vote of a council, then you're evaluated. I don't understand or see it in the charter where, and this is not specific to Mr. Vecchia, where our town council president has the right to determine what the criteria is for whether or not someone receives a bonus. So again, I know no one's gonna respond to me publicly, which is fine, but I will let people know who actually do respond to me privately. And not what you responded to me, but that you did respond. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, my name is Thomas Ross. I'm the Vice President of the Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts, and I can speak tonight on behalf of the Winthrop Firefighters 1070.
Okay. You're not a resident of Winthrop?
I am not, sir.
Can I entertain a suspension of the rules?
Yeah.
Do I hear
Make
a
a motion
motion?
to suspend the rules?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Town Council, for allowing me to speak tonight. I'd like to talk just briefly, I don't want to take up too much of your time, about an issue that's going to be coming forward. Home rule petition to extend the Winthrop Fire Chief past the mandatory retirement age of 65. I also sit on a retirement board and an international retirement board, the National Conference of Public Employee Retirement System. So I work with over 600 towns, states, and municipality retirement systems all over the country. And very, very few fire departments in this country, and especially in the state, have any firefighters that are going past the age of 65. It does happen, but it normally happens in small rural communities where they have call departments or volunteer departments. It's very important that we make sure that we have the ability for firefighters not to go past this age because it's dangerous. Firefighting is an inherently dangerous and very, very difficult job. That's why we have this retirement age, and we have several laws in Massachusetts that make sure that we maintain certain provisions to protect firefighters from injuries. We have Massachusetts general law, we're under Chapter 32 for retirement 100 for line of duty deaths. We have Chapter 94 for hypertension and heart, 94A for protection of your lung disease, and 94B for cancer. These things are all inherently dangerous to firefighters, especially as they start to age. Heart disease, cancer, lung problems, and we need to make sure that these firefighters are protected. If we extend the age past age 65, the fire chief will not be protected under these laws, and the city will have to assume any kind of responsibilities or not take care of the chief if he encounters these problems. Also, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, 111F, which protects firefighters and make sure they get paid for line of duty injuries. This would be, an active fire chief still participating in firefighting, going to fire grounds and making important decisions in very, very difficult and dangerous places. It's also a great question, what happens after age 65? Can't contribute to the retirement system. Is he going to be paying into the Social Security? Another problem that we may have encountered within the town of Winthrop. If we extend this to the fire chief, then we may have to extend to other public safety workers throughout the community, whether it be police officers or a firefighter come to the town council and said, we had a special act of legislation to extend the fire chief past 65. I'd like to go past 65 now. If the town decides that's not a good idea, we only want to do with that, you may encounter some problems with some lawsuits because it's a disparity. If one person is allowed to do it, another person is, I don't know what type of lawsuit you may be open up to, or if this is even going to happen, but this may be Pandora's box that we're opening up. It's a very, very difficult situation. I think that it's a slap in the face to a lot of the very, very well qualified members of the Winthrop Fire Department that have worked many years and studied very hard to get into positions they're doing, and they are qualified. There's several people that are qualified, they're willing and they're able, and they want to move up into that position. That position isn't going to be available, even though it should be, because the fire chief is supposed to retire at age 65. These people are willing to do it, they're capable of doing it, and we need to have them, the ability to do it. It doesn't happen frequently. Anytime you have these kind of home rule petitions, throughout the state of Massachusetts, we have some chiefs that they want to stay, and they've tried to stay in the past, and it's been shot down by the city or town council. So I hope that when the bill comes before the town, they will consider the fact that this department is in a stage right now. There's a lot of things that we need to do. There's there's problems with staffing on this job, there's problems with the apparatus, things like that that need to be addressed. They haven't been addressed in the past, and I hope that we pick a good, qualified fire chief to make these important decisions for us, and that the town can be served to a greater capacity with somebody right now that has the ability to do the job.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard on public comment?
Hi, I'm Debbie Peabody. So I understand that the tennis courts, I'm in favor of refurbishing the high school tennis courts. Just because I'm a lifelong tennis player, I think the tennis courts need to be kept at the high school for the use of the athletics at the high school, and it's just a good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes.
Hi, just briefly, my name is Cynthia Lupi. I live in the Highlands in Precinct 4. I'm also the New England Director for Clean Water Action. I'm a proud member of Friends of Belle Isle Marsh and of Mothers Out Front in Winthrop. And I just wanted to weigh in again in support of the proposed single-use plastic bag ban that you're going to hear more about tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes, sir.
Mr. President, Michael Demento, Precinct 2. Kathleen, thank you so much for letting me know that Mr. Faison also told you that he works for retiring President Mr. Vecchia. Thank you. I ask that this council table all votes that would affect this town longer than the tenure that you're all sitting on. There's a lot of councilors up here that may be retiring or are running for a contested seat. I ask specifically that the CBD be put on hold until the new council is seated, and then you could vote on it. Mr. Vecchi, I know you're retiring. Mrs. Calla, Heather, I know you guys are, you're correctly, giving up your seat. Enjoy your retirement. The rest of yous, I know could be in contested races. So I ask you, Mr. Vecchia, tonight, under new business, you yourself make a motion that this council tables all CBD voting or anything that will affect the town of Winthrop past the present turn of people in this council. You table it until the new council is in place.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none, we have a presentation by the Board of Health. The chair is here, Bill Schmidt. Bill, you have the floor.
I'm not used to that applause.
Take it while you can, Bill.
Usually we're getting complaints about mosquitoes. So thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. Excuse me. Council President Vecchia, Vice President Lettieri, members of the Winthrop Town Council. For the record, my name is Bill Schmidt. I'm currently the chair of the Winthrop Board of Health. I'm here with fellow board members Astrid Wines and Susan McGuire. The mission of the Winthrop Board of Health is to keep the town a healthy and environmentally safe place to live, work, and enjoy. The board strives to enhance, protect, and promote public health needs, environmental protection, and the quality of life for all in the town of Winthrop. The Board of Health assumes a proactive approach in dealing with the challenges of public health and the environment. We're here tonight to present to the Town Council a proposed regulation of the Winthrop Board of Health for reduction in single-use plastic checkout bags. As the regulation states, and I believe you have a copy, this regulation is promulgated pursuant to the authority of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 111, Section 31, whereby boards of health may make reasonable health regulations. Even though not required by law, the Board of Health will be holding a public hearing next Thursday, September 26th at 6 o'clock in the Lyceum at the E.B. Newton Building to hear comments from interested citizens, affected businesses, and other parties. We're here before you tonight as part of our community outreach effort to hear your comments and concerns. Our proposed changes are based on the sincere belief they will benefit the public health and environment of our fellow citizens and the community of Winthrop. We are mindful of the authority that we have been granted. As was stated earlier, 122 cities and towns in Massachusetts, including our neighboring communities of Boston and Revere, have approved plastic bag regulations. These includes boards of health in Chatham, Hopkinton, and Lenox. Our regulation is closely modeled after the regulation approved in Boston in 2017. The reason we felt is because we're so close. Some people might, for instance, go to the CVS and in East Orient Heights there, and we want to be similar. This regulation seeks to promote the use of reusable checkout bags and readily degradable non-toxic alternatives. The proposed regulation is intended to encourage customers of retail establishments within the town of Winthrop to utilize reusable or biodegradable bags. Last September, the Mothers Out Front organization made a presentation to the Board of Health, and I believe also to the Town Council, on a single-use plastic bag ban in Winthrop. They requested that the board consider adopting a regulation similar to those passed by many other communities in our state. After several monthly meetings of the Board of Health, which are open to the public, and we had some debate and discussion, the present members of the board passed the draft regulation, which is the subject of tonight's presentation. Let me point out some significant provisions. First of all, most importantly, single-use plastic checkout bags shall not be distributed, used, or sold for checkout or other purposes at any retail establishment within the town. Retail establishments are strongly encouraged to make reusable checkout bags available for sale to customers at a reasonable price. A retail establishment that provides any type of checkout bag, excluding prohibited single-use plastic checkout bags, shall sell them for no less than 5 cents per bag. All monies collected pursuant to this regulation shall be retained by the retail establishment. Any charge for a checkout bag shall be separately stated on a receipt provided to the customer at the time of sale and shall be identified as the checkout bag charge thereon. 6. Thin film single-use plastic bags used to contain dry cleaning, newspapers, baked goods, bulk goods, meats, seafood, produce, wet items, etc. will still be permissible. So there won't be any prohibition, for instance, on the bags used in cleaners or you get your newspaper at your door, etc. Any retail establishment distributing single-use plastic checkout bags in violation of the regulations shall be subject to a fine, which will be paid to the town of Winthrop. The Board of Health also may grant a waiver for a period of up to 6 months of the effective date of enactment in this regulation would cause an undue hardship to the retail establishment. And then finally, it's expected that the effective date of the regulation would be sometime in the spring of 2020, 6 months after the Board of Health votes its approval. As was mentioned by a couple of speakers, the problems associated with plastic bags are well known. They end up as litter, they harm wildlife, they're not biodegradable, they end up in our food, they're made from fossil fuels, and they contribute to the burden of the town's solid waste disposal. The Board of Health proposes to establish this regulation to protect the town's aquatic and terrestrial environments, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, advance solid waste reduction, and reduce nuisance litter. We're open to hearing your comments and concerns about this regulation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions or comments? Rob?
Bill, have you, I heard you say that you were having a hearing next Thursday to hear concerns from any local businesses or whatever.
Yes.
Have you guys spoken or reached out to any local business owners in regards to this and had any conversations?
Yes, so I had some conversations with Mark Wallace at the marketplace. I've also had conversations with Betsy Shane from the Chamber. When this issue was first brought up, this was before Revere passed it, and there was some concerns about the fact that if Winthrop passed it and Revere hadn't, maybe some business would be lost to Revere.
Sure. Yeah.
But after Revere passed it, there seems to be less concern about that.
Okay.
But they have been given copies of the draft. They're obviously invited to testify, and if they have some suggestions, we're open to those.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Question?
Has any options for paper plastic been available in Winthrop? Normally you don't ask, I mean, but sometimes they suggest that I register, would you like prefer paper or plastic?
Yeah.
Has that ever,
I don't,
as
I-
a startup,
Yeah, I don't know.
maybe ease into it?
Well, I don't know if that's been offered, but quite frankly, the idea in the long run is not to have paper as well, because paper actually, there's a problem with the cost that's coming in with paper now, and again, you're getting to more, the goal is to have people bring bags that a lot of times people are buying now, but you actually can bring to the store and you don't need paper or plastic, because paper is not a solution in the long term. Because of the trees being cut down in the forest and stuff. So you actually want to get people away from using paper or plastic. You want them to bring bags that they have, and I think some of the stores, the chambers talked about actually maybe making some of those available so that people will get used to bringing those to the store with them, and you won't need either.
Anyone else? Council Boncory?
Yes. How are you, Bill? As you know, I
Good
came
neighbor.
to your meeting that the mothers out front were there, and I said I was in favor of this plastic bag proposal.
Yes.
However, when I'm looking at it now, I'm looking at some of the situations where you're talking about enforcements and penalties and giving waivers and exemptions. And you, as the Board of Health, have the authority to do that,
Yeah, so we
to
do.
give waivers and to give
Well, we have that even
exemptions.
now in our other
And
regulations.
to who's going to enforce this for?
Well, it'll be the Board of Health or its agents, similar to the tobacco, which I know you're very familiar with the tobacco regulations. So the Board of Health or its agent has the authority. So for instance, just to give you an example, we have a tobacco control agent, but also our own inspectors can do that. And we do have the authority to issue fines, as you know, in tobacco and smoking. There have been restaurants that have gotten fines. So we do have that authority.
Yes, usually they're a state fine, and a state amount.
No,
These
the fine,
amounts, where would you get these amounts of 100, 200, and
well,
300?
different communities have different amounts. So we looked at different communities and decided what seemed to make sense. Of course, we'll take comments, but the idea is, first of all, one of the things, if you looked at the draft regulation, it says that the first violation will be a warning. So actually, the first violation, we're not going to issue a fine of any monetary value. Our goal
Yeah.
our goal isn't to fine people. We want people to do the right thing. And that's why you're having waivers, so that, for instance, say a particular business, we have 6 months and they have a lot of inventory for some reason. And so maybe at the end of the 6 months, they still have some bags, and we might give them a waiver for a month or two so that they can use the bag. So we're going to look for ways to work with groups.
My concern is when somebody has the authority to give waivers and exemptions, there's also the authority to misuse those waivers and exemptions. And that's why I want to make sure that the public health officers are going to be enforcing this, the police are going to be enforcing this, and I'm still concerned about the level of those fines, but.
Okay, well, then, we'll take that back. I think that, again, we modeled our regulations very much similar to what Boston has, and Boston has those exact same waivers and exemptions, so we trying to be parallel.
Anyone else? Hearing none? Bill, members of the committee, thank you very much for
One
your...
comment, so
Please.
maybe you want to mention the WCAG presentation that's forthcoming.
Yeah, we're trying to do some presentations on various issues. We did a presentation recently on tobacco and smoking. On WCT, we're going to do another one on the plastic bags to get people informed, and so part of the education process. Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. That's issue.
Okay, we have 3 public hearings this evening, the first one of which is for the town council to transfer $175,000 from the General Stabilization Fund, Special Article General Fund Yard Waste Haul-Out. I'm going to call on the chairman of the Finance Committee, because he's been discussing that at length at this evening's meeting, just to give the folks an overview of what we're looking for here.
So, as I'm sure all of you are aware, we have been in a shutdown as far as the waste removal hauling to the dump there for the clippings and such. And we had had a motion passed 3 years ago that we were getting to capacity, and the plan was to authorize $150,000 for 2 fiscal years in a row, which would get us basically to square one, and then we would authorize $40,000 a year. We roughly use about 2,000 cubic yards of materials that are brought down. The cost approximately to haul those out every year is about $40,000. We authorized the first year, I believe it was fiscal 2016, for $150,000, and we made obviously a good dent. Due to budgetary constraints and such, it was removed from the budget in the following 3 years. So since then, there has been no allotment. So now that $150,000 that we did has brought us back up to capacity. And with the microburst that we had over the past couple of months, that brought us past capacity. So so there was a motion, it was discussed in finance tonight. The motion is for $175,000 to be taken from general stabilization to haul out the waste. It was passed in committee 2-1. We could discuss it now and vote on it, or we could, okay. So it was discussed in committee, it was passed 2-1. I voted against the 175 because the contract that we have currently, we have a contract for $125,000. And we were told by the DPW director that that is something, if you don't mind, can I defer to the DPW director? If you could just explain the current contract that we had, and he's way back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And why it did increase because of the 25, because of the microburst.
So the current contract was actually, the bid happened prior to the microburst.
Correct.
So we were looking to remove 7,500 to 10,000 cubic yards this year in the contract. After the bid, the contractor come back, at a cost of $125,000. The microburst added an additional probably $25,000 to that. So we were initially going for the $150,000 cost to get you back to your original vote from 2016. In addition to that microburst, now that the compost has been closed, you have people stockpiling their yard waste for over a month now. So potentially you have another 1,000 cubic yards out there that's going to flood this facility once those gates open. We have at least a month of haul-out to get that contract done before this facility is back running to full capacity. So all that information combined, with the CFO and the assistant town manager, we figured the 175 for the motion of 175,000 kind of took all that stuff into account to get your 150, your microburst surplus, plus all this stockpile that's sitting in everybody's yard at this time.
So the bottom line is, we're asking the council tonight to approve the $175,000 to basically get it open again. We've received numerous complaints. I know I have a couple of barrels in my backyard. So does anyone wish to be heard pro or con in the public? Anyone on the council? Hearing none, I'll close out that portion of the public hearing. The second one is for the town council to transfer $61,000 from the cemetery sale of lots fund, which is a special article general fund, the cemetery building demolition. Basically, the old office that was in the cemetery was reduced to zero. If you go by there now, it's nothing but dirt. So basically, there was a cost involved in it. I know there was a lot to do with lead paint, various other things. So we're looking to take $61,000 from that account. Anybody wish to be heard? Anyone wish to be heard on the council?
Council President?
Yes, sir.
The Finance Committee also met on this evening. There was discussion on it. We had approved the demolition of the building. Our only question was, and I think CFO Anna Friedman is here tonight, and we had requested a copy of the bill. you know, we approved it 3-0. Our only question was that we had wished we had known the cost before, and a lesson learned again, once an approval without a specific dollar amount could end up being pretty costly. But there was issues involved with asbestos, I believe, and other debris that we had to get hauled out. But we did request a copy of the bill, which we expect to have, but we did pass this. Again, it's a service that's already been performed. If you go there, it's leveled. So we did approve it 3-0.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
You could take comments from them.
Yes, sir.
As a result of clearing the building, are there new lots available for sale which could offset the cost?
There will be new lots, and there's even been discussions of various things.
Yes,
By council.
hopefully, we can build a mausoleum and get many more lots out of that one piece of land.
So a lot of people could put, and then that could recoup the cost quite easily.
Sure.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none, I'll close out that public. The last public hearing is the town council review an ordinance 12-28.020, the use of the launch ramp. I'll refer to Council Boncory.
Yes, this came before the Rules and Ordinance Committee again today. We first had addressed this back in May of 2017 when we set the fee and violation fee, and it was put into the bylaws. For some reason, the actual bylaw wasn't put into the bylaw after it was approved, so we need to re-vote it today. And the motion is to adopt the following ordinance, Section 12-28-020, use of launch ramp. No person shall use the launch ramp at the town landing without paying the designated launch fee listed in Section 4.04.020. That is what was approved in 17 of the town ordinances. The presence of an empty boat trailer parked in the town landing without proof of launch fee payment properly displayed shall serve as prima facie evidence that a violation has occurred. Violation of this ordinance is punishable by a fine as listed in Section 4.04.020 of the town ordinances. The provisions of this section shall be effective only at such times that an official sign is posted on the town landing or take any other action thereto. That's what's before the council tonight for a ratification vote.
Anyone else wish to be heard? From the public? Anyone else on the council? Hearing none, we'll close that up. Committee reports. Miller Field?
Well, we'll do finance first. Is finance first on
You want to do it?
Well, I'll just go in order.
All right, go ahead.
The Finance Committee met, as we just discussed. We just met at 6 o'clock this evening. Present with myself, Councilors Christopher and Farino, committee members, also Council President Vecchia, Councilor Boncory, Councilor LeConte, CFO Friedman, Assistant Manager Rodriguez popped in, as did DPW Director Calla. We had two items on the agenda, the first being the $175,000 from general stabilization. We did have discussion. The discussion involved, my concern was the amount of the money and the fact that this was on the capital plan as one of the items from the Massport money from the Winthrop Foundation. But because of the delay might not be the right word, but because of the time it's going to take to get that money, we think it's very important to have this facility open. My concern is we're obviously not going to spend $175,000, get it done, and then go and ask the Winthrop Foundation to reimburse us. That's not going to happen because it's already been done. So my thought was if we could get it open for the 125 or 100 to let the people get rid of their yard clippings for the year, get through this year, and then fund it going forward. We have a lot of bonding coming up, and you know, even if we have $1 million, a couple million, $3 million in reserves, the percentage of our budget, it's not extremely high. And we applauded this committee a few years back when we were doing the bonding on the middle high school, because we were able to have our reserves in a position where we saved millions of dollars over the cost of bonding the project. So I get a little concerned that we keep reducing that amount. Having said that, I was okay with doing $125,000 to fund the contract to get us through, but it was approved 2-to-1 to approve the $175,000. The other item on the agenda was the $61,000 for the cemetery sale of lots fund. That current fund has a balance now of about $160,000, which after this, the balance would be about $96,400. Is that right, CFO? Because I know there's been some adjustments. So I know the current balance is $196,931, but technically there's a $39,000 charge out coming out. So it's roughly $160,000, and it would be roughly $96,000 after this would be done. Again, we approved it. Our only question was to try to inform us ahead of time what the cost would be before we're asking to pay a bill that's already been approved, and there's nothing we could do about it. But we did pass it unanimously. In the end, it was a building that needed to come down. There was a lot of rot there. There was asbestos and other bad materials in there. So we did approve that unanimously, and the meeting concluded at 6:25.
Millerfield?
Millerfield, we met last night. Yeah, we met last night. Obviously, the major talk revolved around the field house. The field house is coming out pretty well right now. We have the clapboard's been put up. The insulation has been done. We've increased the scope of work a little bit of the Voc, and they have been tremendous. So they are taking over the HVAC now. They're also going to take over putting up the drywall inside, which should be done in the next couple of weeks. We're putting some hat lights underneath. So it's coming out, it's doing well, and it's the good news is it's under budget. We also there was discussion, we were fortunate enough to have Joe Murphy was from Little League came. We have a section of fence, it's about 130 feet. It's to the northwest side of the field behind the visitor bleachers. And it kind of abuts the area where the Little League batting cage is, which is in vast need of repair, which Little League wants to do. And we're trying to come up with a solution where we could clean out. We don't want to put up 2 fences and have a 4-foot area in the middle that's just going to grow wild, and we're not able to get to it to maintain it. So we're trying to come up with a solution that would satisfy the town and satisfy Little League. There was also discussion about tonight's meeting where it's on the agenda that we have a discussion on putting the shed and the tennis courts back on the scope of project for Millerfield. We did have a brief discussion of that, and we were hoping that if it was passed this evening, that at our next meeting we might be able to have a representative from the town, maybe the town manager, and a representative from the golf club, because I know the shed has been in discussions for a long period of time, so we could get some sort of idea as to the scope of work. As far as the refurbishment of the tennis courts, when we started this project, we put $400,000 aside. The goal was to not touch that money in case anything ever did happen in regards to either parking or tennis court refurbishment or whatever it happened to be. So there is, we think, adequate money to do some sort of facelift if that's what the goal is. So we briefly discussed that, and that was it. So that is it from Miller Field.
Appointments, committees, and commissions.
Appointments, committee, and commissions. So the appointments committee and commissions met on Friday the 13th, ironically. Present with myself and Councilor Boncory. The lone agenda item was the town manager evaluation. At our previous meetings, which was reported on at our previous subcommittee meeting, which was reported on at our last council meeting, we had really done all the legwork involved in the process. We had sent out the evaluations had been received, we had done a spreadsheet compilation of all the scores. However, after discussion at that meeting, it was requested that we remove one of the, I think there were 59 questions, that we remove one of the questions and did a recalculation. So it was voted on, it was approved, we removed the question. Just for clarification, there was one question involving a town planner. It was thought by the majority of the people present that it was a relatively unfair question to ask of the town manager because It wasn't something that had been discussed with him on his arrival here. So we removed that question and just did the recalculation. So we met. Obviously, I don't want to go into every section and every evaluation. I will hit upon a couple of strengths and opportunities that were highlighted throughout the evaluations. Categories which were considered strengths were news and media and press relations, where many of the comments thought that the town manager presented himself and the town well with the news media, while other strengths was timeliness and presentation of the budgeting, allowing the council to have more time to understand the contents. One reference was about how the town manager had added an extra layer of having department heads not only come before the Finance Commission, but also come before the council individually. So councilors that weren't able to attend the Finance Commission had the opportunity and got the clarity from the department heads before the budget was voted on all the intricacies that are involved in creating this budget. Areas of opportunity, we were focused basically on the category of council relationships, focusing on the manager's response to our advice and criticism, as well as follow through on council directives. So the evaluation, again, it was based on 58 questions. The evaluation scoring was based on a 1 to 5 format, 5 being excellent, almost always exceeds the performance standard, 4 being above average, generally exceeds the performance standard, 3 being average, generally meets the performance standards, 2 being below average, usually does not meet the performance standards, 1 being poor, rarely meets the performance standard, and NO being no observation, that a counselor had no interaction with that or did not understand, did not feel that they could properly answer the question. We created an Excel spreadsheet, which I will pass out to each person. There is also, we had 7 evaluations returned. The spreadsheet, as well as each evaluation, will be scanned and available on the website in the coming days. The overall matrix scoring came in literally a notch under 3. The other item that we discussed was the recommendation from the subcommittee as to what would be considered a quote-unquote successful or satisfactory performance, which was the verbiage used in the town manager contract to warrant a bonus of $5,000. The committee discussed which we felt would be acceptable. Our conversations centered in the 3 to 3.5 to 4 category, as we felt 3 average, meaning generally meeting performance standard, would not be worthy of a bonus. We ultimately voted unanimously that a score of 3.5 or higher, in our opinion, would be considered acceptable to warrant the bonus. This is submitted by myself as chair of the committee. I have a packet for Denise, which you can scan, and I also have individual matrix scoring for each councilors if they would like one tonight.
Okay.
You can get them later. And that's it.
Rules and ordinance.
Rules and Ordinance Committee met this evening at 5:30 p.m. in the Town Council chambers. Meeting was called to order at 5:32. Present was myself as chairman, Councilor Conte, and Councilor Farino were members of the committee. Also present were Council President Vecchia, Councilor Lettieri, and Councilor Christopher. There was one motion on the agenda. You heard me read it in the public hearing, so I don't think I should be reading it again until a motion's passed. And that motion to approve that launch ramp use and fee was made by Councilor Conte and seconded by Councilor Farino to present here tonight under new business, under old business. The motion passed unanimously. The meeting ended at 5:36.
Thank you, Counselor. Town Manager's report.
Sure. So this week, what I did differently is I utilized the goals that were set forth in the budget to provide updates, to bring clarity to some things that I feel like I may not have communicated well with the public and the council. So to begin with, the first one was to begin Center Business District Infrastructure Project. a contractor has been selected, and we will be starting construction on that in the beginning of construction season in calendar year 2020. In terms of the financing, I wanted to give the CFO, Anna Friedman, the opportunity to give a brief update on that.
So the low bid price for this, and Director Calla, if there's any additional information you think I should provide, please chime in. The low bid price was $10,897,657.50. There's a 5% contingency on top of that of $544,882.88. So for that piece, which is the construction cost, that estimated cost is $11,442,540.38. Then there are construction administration and engineering costs, resident engineering costs of $929,725. Funding set aside for lease details of $500,000. The estimated total cost for those components is $12,872,265.38. The authorized funding from the council was $13,284,834, and spent to date is $263,349. So the remaining estimated project cost of that $12,872,265.38, and I can provide this to the council so you have this in writing. That's the total, the updated cost of the project when you add what's been spent to date with the new estimated cost for the going forward piece of the project is $13,135,614. This is consistent and slightly below the project cost of $13,284,834, which is the authorized funding amount that we presented in the spring prior to going out to bid. So we came in just on target, basically.
Thank you, Anna. In addition to that, there was Mr. Constantino wrote a letter to the editor in the most recent Winthrop transcript, and I wanted to bring some clarity that the French Square will not be paved over permanently. It is part of the process of doing this infrastructure project that the ground will need to be opened up and we will need to restructure French Square. That said, this will not be a parking lot in the future. We are taking landscape architecture into account. It is only going to be covered as a phase of the project. Once the project is completed, we will have a lovely open area with trees and benches and the likes. Steve, do you want to kind of talk to that a little bit about just noting like how long that could potentially be in place?
Well, it's intended to be in place for the majority of the project. We're trying to establish some parking down there. There was parking concerns. So it's in the first phase of the project when they're working out, actually prior to them working out on Pauline Street and Woodside Avenue was to demo the existing French Square to create the additional parking, because you are going to lose parking down there with the street closures, and so that was the intent. If it's if the council chose not to do additional parking, and I think you're going to hurt businesses down there if you chose to leave that intact, but the bulk of the reasoning is for additional parking, and then there is some infrastructure work through the section of roadway between Samuel's Pharmacy and French Square, which would have to eventually be opened up for utility work.
I know that one of the concerns that Frank had in the article was some of the plantings that are there, the trees and so forth. I hope that we could, coordinate something with the beautification committee and maybe DPW. I know when we built this new school across the street here, there were all kinds of trees in the pit, and we actually had a company come in and pick the trees up. They're all around Lewis Lake right now, and they're thriving. So anything that we can capture, special plantings that were, there.
Frank is working with DPW and Paul O'Donnell, who's retired from our department, working on relocating some of the plantings over to, looking at areas over near the E.B. Newton School. The new Walden parking lot has that planting bed there.
Correct.
So there is, they are working on a plan to reuse some of that, of those plantings. As far as the trees, we did get a cost estimate to remove one of the larger trees there. It was in excess of $60,000 with a very little guarantee with no guarantee that it would survive. So we didn't think that that money was worth the risk. Again, it's your budget.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Was one of those trees the tree that was dedicated to Belle Lieberman? Do you know?
There is none of those trees at this point are being relocated at this point. To
But
my
I mean,
understanding.
obviously, if there is a dedicated tree and it doesn't make it, I mean, we could probably plant a new tree, rededicate it, if that's the case, I would think.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Reengage Center Business District Master Planning Process. In your next meeting, you will be having a joint meeting with the planning board concerning the proposed map, so we continue to try to move forward and make progress on that. The next item, bring clarity to zoning. I've engaged with the MAPC to help us with a visioning document that I've referred to as Win 2030. From there, when we decide some of the parameters of what we're trying to do as a community, we will then enter into a longer-term master planning process, which then would lead to an updating zoning across town. So this is a multi-year process of really deciding what we're going to be doing with the zoning across town. This is not a we can do this in a couple of months thing. This will take a long period of time. Facilitate a proposal for the middle school site. You all voted to surplus the items in the last meeting that are still in the old middle school. We need clarification on the title, and we still need updated zoning on that site before it goes out to bid. And the next item was facilitate development of long-term strategic planning document. That would be Win 2030 in a master planning document, so see above with that. And then prioritize improvements to town technology to increase operational efficiencies and service delivery. A few examples of the things that we're using are Next Request, which is for public information requests that was publicly launched last week, I believe. Went live last week, excuse me. Granicus, which you all approved in the last meeting, the funding for, which is the agenda management and minute software that we're going to be piloting that in October and rolling it out in November. OpenGov, which is our budget management software, is a very ongoing project, and the CFO is actually meeting with them today. Viewpoint, which is a web-based permitting platform that will have our building permits, and we'll start with the building, but we will expand the majority of our permitting licensing through that platform. And C-Click Fix, which is a work order management system. We will be utilizing that with DPW to begin and expand from there. That is something that we hope to have kind of like a 24-hour 7 days a week ability to receive requests for work around town. Enhanced focus on community development. We are currently exploring solutions for the bike infrastructure, and we have been talking about this frequently in these meetings. We are exploring the reintroduction of the Winthrop Farmers Market for calendar 20. And we have been looking into the Main Streets program, which would allow different business districts around the community to invest in themselves for things like holiday lights and signage and things like that, and kind of alleviate the Chamber of Commerce for some of those types of things. Facilitate development of enhanced fiscal policies to improve long-term sustainability of the town. We have draft policies in hand from the Division of Local Services with the state. We are working with them to edit them, and then we will be bringing those fiscal policies to you to approve and talk with the finance committee as well. Improve management of legal expenses. We've been working with our lawyers and our insurance companies to limit the exposure of the town. This may mean that we are paying a little bit more for our lawyers, but we are trying to limit our exposure in the longer term. Obtain funding to enhance climate change preparedness. We have requested the release of environmental bond bill funding, and that specifically would go towards the Ingleside Park water storage solution, which we're at 30% design on, and we are looking for funding from the state. So to move forward with that, that will be at least a year-long permitting process for that. We received an MVP grant for the development of resilient zoning in town, so we're going to kick that off in 2 weeks, and then from there, we will work with the MAPC on that over the rest of this fiscal year, and we actually hope to be a model for the rest of the region concerning resilient zoning, and the state actually brought us up in a recent meeting concerning looking at the climate change issues on a regional basis rather than a community by community basis. And we're going to continue applying for any and all potential climate focused funding. I was at a green infrastructure conference yesterday. So this stuff remains important, and it will continue to be important for a community like this, being seaside and somewhat being the canary of the coal mine of the Boston Harbor. The strong intergovernmental relationships. I have monthly meetings with the Metro Mayors Coalition. I am trying to maintain constructive relationships with MWRA and Massport, and we have frequent and open dialogue with our state level representatives. We were meeting with the Speaker and Senator Boncory earlier today. Facilitate development of more sustainable community. That is ongoing, and it's a little more nebulous, so I'm still trying to figure out the best way to address that, and develop and implement a capital improvement plan. We will have a fully developed CIP in the fiscal 21 financial plan that we present. And I have additional items concerning the playground, but I will hit on those in new business if necessary. Thank you.
Yes. A couple questions. You just mentioned the farmers market. Any idea on the location? Did you mention location?
We talked to them already this year because we thought we were going to potentially have to relocate them anyway. So we've talked about the harbor and the marina area. We're trying to be flexible with them because farmers markets are kind of commonplace around the area now, so we would like to have one open for the next year. So it's a little difficult to put it by the middle school because we will most likely be doing soil mitigation for the Center Business District process, but we will very happily relocate them to another place in town. I think the harbor would be a nice thing for some of the people getting off the ferry to actually be able to grab some organic vegetables and fancy cheese on the way home or something.
And on I think Anna mentioned 13.1 million. Does that include we had discussed about with National Grid to put underground the utilities entering the center where the CVS is near Woodside Ave, the first, I don't know, Stephen, if it was like 900 feet, 1,000 feet, whatever it is, and I want to say it was like 500,000.
No, those underground utilities are not part of the project.
Okay.
Everything's going to remain overhead.
And the other question I have just on that I want to put on new business for next week, 2 weeks, is the Chapter 70 money came in about $106,730 more than we had budgeted, which is a good thing. I understand that the charter school spending went up also, which offset it by about $49,000, but we netted out about $59,000 in what I would like to call Chapter 70 money, and I would like to maybe see it on the agenda for the next meeting that we could relocate that to the schools because I think they could really use it. And Chapter 70 money, I think, is a really good idea to go to the schools since it should be going to the schools. So I would like to ask that be put on the agenda for the next meeting, please. And thank you for mentioning the C-Click fix. I'm excited that that will be coming on soon. And any update on the any insurance money we received for the ferry repairs?
Yes, we received the check already to the tune of, was it $44,000 was covered of the $55,000 or $56,000 repair. All right. We'll get you the exact numbers on that. We can give that update. And then
the majority of it was covered.
One thing with the Chapter 7 charter school, we potentially are having Dick Kingston come on October 15th. Would that be okay?
That's fine.
Would you come on that date? Okay. We're going to do a general update of how the numbers changed from the budget that was approved to compared to what we had approved internally.
And one last thing, if I could ask through the town manager to Steve, is I just found out about this today because I had talked to Steve about it, but can you explain the lead water testing that some residents have been receiving? Because I had got a call today that they weren't aware, they missed it or whatever.
So I had DEP contract, permit rather, we have to sample twice a year. do lead and copper sampling. Every month we do bacteria sampling around town at different sites, but anybody that has a tier 1 service, which is a full lead service from the main to their meter, qualifies to be part of the lead and copper sampling. We have to sample 15 locations around town twice a year. So the resident that you called about today happens to be on that roster. If they don't want to, it's not a mandatory program. It's a great program, and anybody that has a lead service into their house, it's a wonderful program to be on, to know what your lead levels are, with the tier 1 service. If they don't want to be on it, they can certainly opt out, and we would pick up another site. But that's.
Thank you. It's a great service. And what's the turnaround time on getting the levels?
We send them out, so we leave the bottles out. Typically takes about 3 to 4 days for the resident to draw the sample. It's all done by the resident. We give instructions. They leave their bottle out on their front steps. We come by and grab it, and we deliver it to the lab. The lab usually gives us the result within a week.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. One quick question. Could you just clarify, you said that you've taken a longer term look at some of the center business district zoning. Could you just clarify to me to make sure that the middle school site is not involved in that, because in the long-term vision, because I think that there's certainly an appetite in the community to have that done quicker than, long-term, or is that something that you're thinking about?
I would,
all in the same process.
I would prefer to that to be involved in the same process. The inclusion of the middle school site in the center business district zoning would bring clarity to the zoning for the site. Right now, there's a lack of clarity with the zoning, so it's very hard for a developer could potentially take advantage of the town with the amount of money that they had for a project. So whether it be the center business district zoning, and in the event that it's not an overlay district, we want to bring clarity to some of the scope of a project that we'd want. Not necessarily the type of business or anything like that, or residential, but the size and massing and things like that.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just on that question, I would like to just ask that if you do bring it together, I would like them to be split out, because there were a few of us that recuse ourselves on the center business, but I've been informed that I am more than capable and available to vote on the middle school project, so I would not want that put together. I would want to be able to vote on that separately and individually.
I believe that's at you all's discretion at the next meeting when you discuss them.
Okay. Thank you. School department update. School committee meeting September 9th, 2019. The school committee honored longtime head baseball coach Frank DeMarco. Any relation?
I might know.
For his many services, many years of service and dedicated service to the students. And also students Gabby and Joseph Shea were recognized for their involvement in the school supplied fundraiser they participated in. The superintendent reported that a complete review and inspection of safety and security measures was conducted by the police and fire department. ALICE training has been completed by all the new teachers, ESPs, and staff. This training is made available by a safety grant received from Speaker DeLeo, and the program is overseen by the school resource officer, Don Armistead. Preschool is up and running at the high school, and the school committee approved the student handbook and the school improvement plans. Okay. Old business. I'll call on Chair of Finance.
Thank you, Council President. There's a motion that I move that the town council transfer $175,000 from general stabilization fund to a special article in the general fund to be titled Fiscal 20 Yard Waste Haul Out, or take any other action relative thereto. Came out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Okay, discussion on the motion?
Council President?
Sure.
I would like to make an amendment of the motion to $125,000, which I believe is what the initial contract was for, which will enable us to open it up to the public. It will also enable us to go to the Winthrop Foundation and to try to receive $50,000 of the $150,000 that we had put in the capital plan.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second. Discussion on the motion, on the amendment.
Mr. President.
Yes.
I'm gonna oppose this amendment. I think that, while it's great intention, and I think it's great that the Winthrop Foundation could in time come in to, give us the money that we're spending on this. I think it's important that we do this as quickly as we can, and if we were to reduce the amount of money that we were to authorize tonight, that it could gum up the works in getting this, project, whatever it is, slowed down. And if that was the case, then that would just take longer for people to be able to get the yard waste out of their yard. I would encourage the town manager to try to get a bid that was lower and do this maybe as, for as less of a cost as they possibly could. But at the end of the day, I think I've heard loud and clear from the people in the community that they want this to be done as fast as we can. It's a public safety issue to some people, and I hope that we can do this quickly, with the thought that at some point we could get reimbursed for it if the Winthrop Foundation would be up to it.
Anyone else? Councilman
Yeah,
McCoy.
I agree with Councilor Christopher. We should pass the entire 175,000 right away. Let's get this project started. We did talk to Steve Calla at the Finance Committee meeting, and if it is less, and if it can be less, that money will come back to us. It won't be spent. So I'd say we approve the 175 because that's what they think they need, and if it's not all spent, it will come back.
Any discussion on the motion? On the amendment?
No, I
Yes.
just want to remind everyone that we're 3 years behind doing this without putting out any money.
Anyone else for, you already spoke, anybody else? Yes.
I just want to speak, that I'm in favor of the full amount, and I think we've been discussing this long enough, and time is wasting, and I think we should appropriate the full amount of money.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Council?
And again, just for clarification, I want it open as soon as possible, and the 125 would open it just as soon as the 175. I still, even though I talk about the Winthrop Foundation, I agree that this wasn't what I would consider a Winthrop Foundation expense, because again, the Winthrop Foundation is supposed to be used for one-time occurrences, which this obviously is not. And why, when we were doing the budget, I didn't think that this was proper to use this, and I wanted to use other funds for this. But again, I look at the amount of funding that we're going to be borrowing, and I get very concerned about the rates, because a couple of basis points could end up costing hundreds of thousands of dollars over the term of the bond. That was my only point.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none, we're going to be voting on the proposed amendment to reduce the amount to 125. All in favor of the amendment to reduce it to what? Roll call?
Counselor Ingman. Counselor Calla.
No.
Counselor Christopher.
No.
Counselor Boncory.
No.
Counselor DeMarco.
No.
Counselor Farino.
Nope.
Counselor Conti.
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri.
Yes.
President Vecchia.
No.
Well, amendment does not pass.
Okay, now this is on the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion? Roll call vote on the main motion.
Counselor Ingman. Counselor Calla.
Yes.
Counselor Christopher.
Yes.
Counselor Boncory.
Yes.
Counselor DeMarco.
Yes.
Counselor Farino.
Yes.
Counselor Conti.
No.
Vice President Lettieri.
Yes.
Vice President Vecchia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Town council transfers, that's yours, I'm sorry.
Getting late. A motion that the town council transfer $61,000 from Fund 584 Cemetery Sale of Lots Fund to a special article in the general fund to be titled Fiscal 20 Cemetery Building Demolition, or take any other action relative thereto. This came out of committee with positive recommendation.
Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, let's call for a roll call vote.
Counselor Ingman. Counselor Calla.
Yes.
Counselor Christopher.
Yes.
Counselor Boncory.
Yes.
Counselor DeMarco.
Yes.
Counselor Farino.
Yes.
Counselor Conti.
No.
Vice President Lettieri.
Yes.
President Vecchia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Councilor Boncory.
Yes. I have a motion coming out of Committee Rules and Ordinance. It's a motion to amend the Town of Winthrop bylaws by adding section 12.28.020, use of launch ramp. No person shall use the launch ramp at the town landing without paying the designated launch fee listed in section 4.04.020 of the town ordinances. The presence of an empty boat parked in the town landing without proof of launch fee payment properly displayed shall serve as prima facie evidence that a violation has occurred. Violation of this ordinance is punishable by a fine as listed in section 4.04.020 of the town ordinances. The provisions of this section shall be effective only at such time that an official sign is posted at the town landing.
Motion's out of rules and ordinance. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. You want to?
For ordinance change.
Ordinance change.
Counselor Ingman, Counselor Callow,
Yes.
Counselor Christopher.
Yes.
Counselor Boncory,
Yes.
Counselor DeMarco,
No.
Counselor Farino,
Yes.
Counselor Conti,
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri,
Yes.
Vice President Vecchia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Just for information, that fee, which goes with those numbers of 4.0, is $25.
That's if you don't pay the fine.
That's if you don't pay the $5. The lodge.
Okay, new business, Town Council order authorization to Mass General Court to amend House Bill 3909, Act authorizing continued employment of Paul Flanagan. For the clarification, the council has already voted for this. This is just a change, a technical change in how it's written. Does the fire chief wish to be heard?
Just to clear up a couple of things, for those that don't know me, my name's Paul Flanagan, I'm chief of the Winthrop Fire Department, I've been chief 12 years, I've been in the department 41 years. I would like to thank the council for initially passing this whole home rule petition. I would like to thank the Speaker of the House for having it passed in the House, and for Senator Boncory for sponsoring it, but it did get sent back for an amendment. The gentleman from the PFFM, I respect his position, but just to clear up a couple of things to put the councilors at, excuse me, I got it, I read those. Well, one thing, all of the concerns about the medical and the retirement are all covered under the special act. That's why you don't do this in your hometown and do it without a special act. Everything is covered. As we move forward under heart and lung, it is all covered till the day you die, whether you die from heart and lung. Either way, we are covered as firefighters. As far as the apparatus goes, this council is very aware you appropriated over $200,000 to refurbish a 2006 105-foot aerial that was purchased by the MWRA to extend its life. We have bought a brand new pump in 2015, which was damaged in a flood, and the insurance company paid $95,000 to fix that. And we have another 7-year-old Seagrave pump, and just like the engine one that did get repaired, they're all stainless steel. In the manager's budget, his capital budget as it rolls out, we have an engine that we have in reserve that's been there for 32 years, that if we put a truck out for maintenance or we go mutual aid out of town, that truck goes into service. The truck no longer meets the standards. I had requested in this year's capital budget that that truck be replaced, not with a brand new engine, but an engine that will have all of the firefighters as they respond inside of the cab. And I'm hearing that's going to be in the capital budget, time will tell. As this gentleman spoke, that the legislation that you people so graciously passed is only for rural communities. Well, in actuality, Norwood, a community of 30,000 passed it, and Falmouth, a community of 32,000 both passed it. And Norwood chief was considered a legendary chief. That's not what I'm trying to do tonight. But what I would like to get across is you can't stay in the job that you love forever. I know that. I've worked in this job. I love the job. I'm in the community. It's a very exciting time in the fire department. We have some great new guys that are going to graduate the Boston Fire Academy next Wednesday. We worked very hard to get them in that Boston Academy, or they would have been entering the Mass Fire Academy in January.
We have just made some great new fire officers. Very exciting time. So why does the chief want to stay? I have no need to stay, other than any decision I've ever made, whether it's raising money for the fireworks, any floods, I've always made it what's best for the community. I was brought up in a house that has given the fire department 168 years, 127 consecutively, and the 3 F's were family, faith, and fire department, and not always in that order. So all I'm asking you tonight is to listen to why I would like you folks to vote this. We currently have 13 guys in our fire department that have 2 years or less. We have another firefighter in Rocco Fester who's going to be deployed out of this town October 1st, which is going to give us another temporary opening. Come January, I have another firefighter with 33 years leaving, and I have another firefighter in April leaving with 33 years. So that's going to give me, at that point, half my department, my firefighting department, my firefighting force, with less than 2 years on it. I have very capable officers. I have 3 of my 5 senior staff live out of town. They're very welcome to live out of town. They're allowed to live out of town. I live in Winthrop for the time being, and on any given day, we can go out with 5 brand new firefighters that have never been to a fire. And it's a problem for the community, and other communities are facing it. But as the gentleman from the PFFM spoke, well, we don't want it because the fire chiefs are getting old, they're not in shape. I'm in as good a shape as anybody in the fire department. And again, you folks, if this is passed, are able to call me to have a physical every year. My biggest concern is just to want to stabilize the fire department for a short period of time. I don't need to be there forever, but when the tone goes off, it doesn't necessarily one of the capable captains, and 2 of my captains have a year combined. So I have I have new officers. I have a lieutenant spot that's vacant, and nobody that I've offered it to yet has accepted it. We're continuing to offer that position. As of November, we're going to have a captain's test and a lieutenant's test for promotions. The gentleman from the PFFM spoke that I'm holding up people that are coming. There are some people that are studying, there are some people that are going to be attending chief officer school, but nobody has come to me identified, I would like that position. My concern is that any one of these captains can take a vacation night, and now we have a lieutenant who's in charge of the shift and who is in charge of the community. Many a night, whether it's 6 in the morning or 1 in the morning, sometimes, depending on what end of the town is, I can beat one of the stations there. They are out the door as quick as the Winthrop Fire Department has ever been out the door. We shepherded through the last 18 months. We were down 11 firefighter positions. It was vacation time. These guys were cooperative. You never knew when you were going home. You finished your 24-hour tour, you were frozen. We did not have enough guys. And finally, we will almost be back to full complement. But what's going to happen again, we have a deployment, we have 2 more retirements coming up. So all I'm asking you is just to stabilize the fire department short term. I'm not going to be there forever. I have always kept the fire department the #1 thing in my heart, and I will continue to do so. So what I'm asking you tonight is to vote the amendment and allow the fire department to continue, because on a given night, I can have a lieutenant or even one of my capable captains go out with 5 or 6 guys because they're allowed to swap. We're spreading them out. We're balancing the seniority on groups now. It's hard to control. When you pull up to a building like we had on Revere Street a very short time ago, blowing 45 miles an hour, and we have heavy fire. If you have 5, 6 guys who have never been to a fire, that have been trained at the fire academy, you can guarantee, me being in the town, I am going to be there. So as we shepherd through this shortage of firefighters the last couple of years, I'm just looking to shepherd this fire department through this exciting time of our new officers and our new firefighters. So again, if you could vote this amendment, I would appreciate it. I will not let you down. and I assure you I won't be here for that.
So again, the change in this motion was asked by the council for the Senate. I'm going to read the motion. Submitted by Austin, the town manager, Austin Faison, town manager. Text of the motion. I move that the Winthrop Town Council issue the following order, authorizing the Massachusetts General Court to amend House Bill 3909, an act authorizing the town of Winthrop to continue the employment of Fire Chief Paul E. Flanagan. Order, that the Winthrop Town Council hereby authorizes the Massachusetts General Court to amend House Bill 3909, an act authorizing the town of Winthrop to continue the employment of Fire Chief Paul E. Flanagan by inserting after the word subsequent in line 9 the following words, to his reaching the age of 65, and upon retirement, Paul E. Flanagan shall receive a superannuation. It further ordered that the Winthrop Town Council hereby declares the amendment to be within the scope of the general public objectives of the filed petition, Do I hear a second? Second. The motion.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? We'll take a roll call.
Counselor Ingman. Counselor Calla.
Yes.
Counselor Christopher.
Yes.
Counselor Boncory.
Yes.
Counselor DeMarco.
Yes.
Counselor Farino.
Yes.
Counselor Conti.
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri.
Yes.
President Vecchia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The Town Council authorized Millard Field Committee to undertake in refurbishing the high school tennis courts and shed. Do I hear a second? Second. Discussion on the motion.
Council President, can we
Yes.
get an idea on exactly what the scope of this motion is? To refurbish it, does that kind of involve any financial costs? What are we talking about here?
Jim?
As I stated earlier, we had,
You have to push the green button.
we had set aside an amount of $400,000 when the project started, which we thought would be adequate to do the parking lot that was voted on. We weren't sure how it was going to end up, but we didn't want, if it was going to be a parking lot or going to be refurbishing the tennis courts, I think we all agree that it should be something. It should not stay, the eyesore it is right now. So we did keep that money technically out of the budget and all agreed that we would not touch it. So, not that we want to go and spend $400,000 of the taxpayers' money, but that money is available for it. I would believe personally that, it would be a discussion that the Miller Field Committee would have, but I think it would have to involve security of the parking, making sure it's adequate, making sure there's proper lightage, making sure there's proper surface, and making sure there's proper fence. We would have to get estimates and, obviously if it's not within the scope of the budget, but I think we feel relatively comfortable that we would have sufficient money to make that a usable and attractive facility and a safe facility for parking around it, because there is still cars that are facing into a athletic field, which I have concerns with, but I'm sure that will all be brought up. So there is adequate money for that. As far as the shed goes, the shed is an ongoing topic with, when this project started, part of the scope of the project was to have to demolish, for lack of a better word, the facility that the golf club had. The facility was a relatively large facility. I want to say over 3,000 square feet. The town took it down. There was discussions back and forth on who was going to take it down. Our impression was the golf course was going to take it down. It came down to timeliness, and we just thought it was the best thing to move the project forward that we took it down. So we did. So there's been very little back and forth, but we're hoping, we've been hoping over the past several months that we could have some sort of discussion to come up with a plan. It's not something that we could say, here's some money, go build the shed. It has to be part of the scope of the project, which it would be, but it would have to go out to proper bidding and proper procurement laws, and so we don't know what that cost would be. We do have we have been under budget throughout the whole process. We feel right now, not counting the 400,000, as we speak, we feel pretty comfortable that we're about $174,000 to the good. We still have a lot of things to do in buttoning up that field house, and so we don't know what that number is going to be. But just to go off this, if we do this and revert it back, we do have a meeting scheduled for October 7th, which is, I believe, a Monday night. I believe it is a school committee night, but it's a meeting scheduled for October 7th at 6 p.m. I think it would be in the Winthrop High School Principals Conference Room. So I would ask the town manager, and hopefully we would have a representative from the golf club there so we could begin, if this comes to us, begin some sort of dialogue back and forth to see what would be entailed in this project. So I would welcome the town manager, a representative from the golf club, and anybody else that would wish to attend.
Councilor Terry, thank you for that explanation. Maybe just for a bit of a further clarification. So this is money that sort of is coming from a previous debt exclusion that was approved by the voters and is in a fund that we cannot do anything else with other than what was in that language? And if so, is the tennis courts really going to cost $400,000 to refurbish, or could this money be spent on something else?
Well, I had a question, to be perfectly honest, whether it could be spent for the tennis courts because it was specifically used for something else. I believe through the council president and town manager, we have some sort of, we received some sort of recommendation from our lawyers that it would be authorized to use. We can't, if we have 200,000 left, we can't, go and restripe the basketball courts at Ingleside Park. You have to do it within the scope of the project. The shed has always been within the scope of the project if we choose to do that. So we do feel that the plan had always been to do something with that property. Technically, the voters voted to make it a parking lot. However, there was a lot of confusion with the verbiage, and there was a lot of people that didn't understand it. So that's why it was taken off the scope originally for a one-year period. Then I think last February it was taken off the scope of the project entirely. Now it would be placed back on. No, we don't intend to, the plan is not to go out and spend the $400,000 we have, but the plan is also to not put lipstick on a pig and make it so, like there's been repairs over the last several years to that tennis court, which has made it, given the ability of the children to play, but if you want to do it, you want to do it right, I would think.
Thank you.
I think the spirit of this whole motion is the fact that we know there's money in the budget, okay? The debt exclusion did not word it that it was going to be a parking lot. It said all in associated work to Miller Field, okay? And I think certainly this is money well spent on a tennis court, which is in disrepair. And I'm looking at, from what the input I've gotten, maybe new fencing and a resurfacing of the tennis courts so that they're usable. And they are used by students and by residents all the time. A lot of people don't want to go down to, Ingleside Park to use those facilities. So I think the spirit here is to completely upgrade that whole area. It's like a campus, and we have a brand new school, we have a brand new field. We certainly should upgrade the tennis courts, and I think that's what we're asking here. Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes.
I just have a question for Jim. So going back to the shed.
Yes.
Now, how long ago was that taken down? 'Cause I know
At the beginning of the project, roughly 2 years.
2 years ago, so the golf club's been without a shed for 2 years.
They have storage facilities there, and my understanding is that they're shepherding out a lot of the work is not being done there as far as upkeep and maintenance and stuff like that, but they do have a couple storage
The
facilities.
town did make a commitment to rebuild that shed, is that correct?
That's up for debate, and that's going to be discussed.
That's up for debate.
Any further discussion?
But we do want to do the right thing.
Any further
I just
discussion?
got a quick question.
Yes.
If we didn't use this money for that, would that go back to the general fund? Or where would that money go?
Yeah, I just think it was the debt obligation, so the debt service we'd have to pay back would be less.
So wouldn't this be an opportunity to get some money put in the bank and maybe depend on the foundation money to do these capital projects?
You can't put the money in the bank, the
No,
money
you
would be,
I'll
so
put it-
instead of
put it in the-
borrowing out the 9.8,
You wouldn't get
it
it.
would be 9.5 and you'd pay back less. You can't bank the money, there would be a final audit of the project anyway, as there was with the school building. And, you know, that could come out short, high, whatever, but there would be a final audit. When that final audit is complete and authorized, the amount of the bonding would be less. So you can't use the money to fix potholes on Pleasant Street.
No, I'm not saying that, but to put it back into the, like.
Capital
No,
stabilization,
you
you
can't.
cannot do, no.
Okay.
Because that
Answer my
money was
question.
voted on for the taxpayers for a specific purpose. You can't use it for another thing.
Anyone else wish to be heard on this? Hearing none, we'll move the question. Let's do roll call.
What's the question again?
The question
Yeah,
is
Motion.
that the town council authorize the Millerfield Committee to undertake the refurbishing of the high school tennis courts and replacement of the golf course shed, or take any other action thereto.
I think you don't need a roll call. I think you
All right, let's take a,
No money.
we'll take a roll, a regular vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. That's why I gotta take those.
That's it?
Okay. You brought up the point of Frank Costantino's letter in the newspaper about French Square. But a while back, I was touched by Frank Costantino's long article in the transcript about the closing of Harry's, of Brown's Drugstore. I think Harry really touched everybody in this town, one way or the other. Just the way he ran his business and just the type of person he was. So I'm going to pass the gavel to Jim.
No, you told the screen from?
No.
Because I'd like to make a motion by the town council president that the town council approve the naming of the portion of Winthrop Street in Metcalf Square, adjacent to the First Church of Winthrop United Methodist, Harry's Way, in order and in tribute to Harry Ophilos, proprietor of Brown's Pharmacy for over 32 years. Harry's compassion and generosity as a small business owner and healthcare professional provided an invaluable service and benefit to this community and was a long-standing and valuable contributor to the town of Winthrop. The Winthrop Town Council hereby moves that the town manager take all appropriate actions relative to this motion and submit the nomination to the Memorials Committee for approval.
I second the
If the
motion.
motion on the floor has been seconded, I just question if we have the authority, or are we giving this to the Memorials Committee for their blessing? Because I don't think we could just authorize the naming.
I think we're telling you.
Can we get
you're-
clarification?
Yeah, to refer.
So we're going to refer this to, okay. So there's a motion that's been seconded. Any discussion on the motion? And if the council president could just clarify in terms of a street renaming versus
It's
a...
not a street renaming.
Okay.
It's just a plaque that will be placed diagonally across the street from where Brown's Drugstore used to be, and it'll say Harry's Way, and we'll have some verbiage on there. We'll come up with the verbiage of why we did it. I just think it'd be appropriate time.
Just so everybody understands, we're not
well-served
changing addresses of anybody,
Nope.
it's nothing involved like that. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Okay. The town council authorizes $150,000 transfer, maintenance for the ATC school playground.
Motion to refer to finance?
I hear a motion to refer to finance.
I
Councilman
believe
Moore.
this was an emergency motion.
Yes.
It's an emergency,
Council President.
You raise your hand first.
Yeah, I raise my hand to say that this is an emergency motion.
Okay.
It doesn't have to go to committee, it can be passed tonight, because it's an emergency public safety issue. So if the maker of the motion, to read the motion, I think we could pass it in tonight.
Okay, so I made the motion. Do we hear a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay, discussion on the motion.
I guess discussion is just where is the money coming from
Yeah,
and the
I think-
balance of the funds.
Yeah, we got something.
No, we did, just for,
Don't we have to have a
The public.
motion to make it an emergency motion?
yeah.
Yes, okay. I will make a motion that we take up the issue of the Arthur T. Cummings School Playground as an emergency
Okay, a motion has been made to take this motion up as an emergency motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Discussion.
Just, again,
Rob?
So, obviously, this is something I'm passionate about. My daughter's in the school right now. The time to pass this is actually tonight. This has been going on for 3 years, and the only people who are affected by this are the kids at the school. That's it. Those are the people who are affected. Liability, obviously, is an issue to this town every day. I mean, there's lawsuits galore. I've heard people say, why don't we close the park? Then everybody's safe. Well, who would we be punishing by doing that? The kids again. And you'd outrage the town, and 2 weeks later, we'd be back here with the same motion because everybody would be outraged and they want the parks to get done. You know, I respect the process and I understand the foundation. I really do. But sometimes it's time for the council to step up. And I think this is something we absolutely have to pass. You know, we were in here 2 weeks ago talking about $7,500 to $15,000 to redo the Harvey Room. And our park has been a hazard for 3 years. The time to act is now. We need to get this done.
Council Farino.
Thank you,
You can
Mr.
read
President.
you can read your motion.
Yeah, I move that the town council vote to transfer $150,000 for the capital stabilization fund to the general fund, special article number 0196058-5881XXFY20, ATC playground equipment and repairs, and take any other action there too.
Second the motion.
Second. Discussion on the motion.
First of all, I think now we gotta pass the motion to make it an emergency before we do that.
Then we just
We
do
did.
that.
No, we didn't take a vote. We made a motion second to make it an
All right,
emergency.
so we'll make a motion, we're gonna take a vote to make it an emergency appropriation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Discussion on the main motion. Council Lettieri.
okay, so this would be coming, in case anybody is wondering, be coming from capital stabilization, current balance 1.309 million, rough balance after 1.159 million. You know, you have to thank the diligence of the citizens that have really stepped up on this. It's unfortunately taken 2 years, but good things don't always come fast, I guess. But I do thank the citizens for their continued efforts and to not let this be forgotten. So I am, I'm anxious to pass this tonight. I would like to just ask, is there any schedule as far as interruption of school activities? Is this something that's going to be done over a vacation in the spring, or is it going to be done now?
That is all to be determined.
Okay.
That, we were discussing that today, that you don't know if this can be accomplished now.
This
because
is something
of the
that,
weather.
sorry to interrupt. The school committee and the superintendent requested quotes of the work. We'd still have to go through an RFP process. We would try to do it as quickly as possible to get this done. So the timetable, again, is not something that I can tell you it's done in 3 weeks or something like that. We would have to go through the correct process for it. But as soon as we have a timetable, I will gladly present it. And hopefully by October 1st, I can at least present a loose timetable.
Now, if we can't do this before the winter, can we secure the site?
Yes, so the superintendent is exploring options to figure out potentially if we cannot construct this prior to the winter, what would be necessary to make it safe for the kids to still play there, whether it is taking down all of the equipment and just having the play surface, or it's part of the play structures. We're going to explore that as well, and that's something that once we get someone under contract, they could better explain to us what they think would be more prudent for us. But we will have a short window for an RFP process and try to get someone on board as quickly as possible and work on this. My office is completely cognizant of the issue that's at hand here, and I've heard loud and clear from the community concerning this.
We just passed this as an emergency motion because it's for public safety. And I think we should add to the end of that motion, we want it done as fast as possible. And, get someone on it. Let's get the price and let's get it done. Hopefully, we don't have to wait till the winter, but we can do it while the kids can still use it.
That's why we gotta pass this now.
And
If it's an emergency, does it still have to follow?
We still have to do a bid process to be legal. We cannot just give the business to someone.
Jim?
I just want to, focus concern on this is being done for an emergency because there is a problem there. And the problem is not necessarily with the equipment, the problem is with the surface. So to use the surface would be kind of going against what we did. So, I mean, ideally, if it can't be done, the weather's going to be such that they wouldn't be playing out there anyway, and we get it done as soon as humanly possible. But
so one thing with the surface is that, so it's a bounce test is what's done with those surfaces, so it'd be falling off the structure and a child being injured, not just a child running around on the surface and skinning their knee or something like that. This is the bounceability test of it, so we're actually gonna have people come in and do bounce tests off of different structures and all over the site as well to figure out what we can actually utilize of the site going forward. So although it is a surface problem, there could be an opportunity to take the equipment down and the kids still play on that surface.
I was going to suggest, that if there is certain equipment that you could take down, so they won't fall off, if there's still something else that they can still utilize that's in the playground along with the rest of the space, I mean, at least that would
We're gonna
cut back some.
We're gonna do whatever we can to make it so it's still a usable area for the children. In my mind, a scenario that doesn't work is putting a fence around the park and saying the park is closed. We will have people hop that fence and potentially get hurt in an area where, even though we're trying to get them not to use, they will still potentially use. So we need to figure out how to make it both safe and then the quickest way to get it resurfaced and restructured.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, take a roll call vote.
Counselor Ingman. Counselor Calla?
Yes.
Counselor Christopher?
Yes.
Counselor Boncory?
Yes.
Counselor DeMarco?
Yes.
Counselor Farino?
Yes.
Counselor Conti?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Vecchia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Councilor Conti.
Okay. So regarding the agenda item for the bike lanes on Veterans Road, I'd like to make a motion that the town manager's office be instructed to place a bike lane on the north running side of Veterans Road such that no parking be eliminated, and emulating the bicycle lane running on Saratoga Street in East Boston at the corner of Ananovi Street running into Winthrop with a single line and occasional bicycle figure painted onto the street on or before May 1st, 2020. I wish that I had a picture to show, but unfortunately it seems like our technology guy is not here. It's a simple line on the street with a bicycle figure on it. It is not obstructing any parking. I think government is great at talking something to death and then never doing anything, but I think the time for action is now, and I hope that we pass this motion such that we set the policy to have the bike lane on Veterans Road.
Yeah, motion's been made. Do I hear a second on the motion?
Second.
I'll second.
Yeah.
A second has been made. Discussion on the motion.
What is the motion? Is it the one written or is it a different one?
It is the one that I just read out that I emailed to Denise to have included in the packet. Something similar has come out of the Public Works Committee. We've already reviewed it. We don't need to send it back to another committee. We've had an internal review. I think that we should vote on this.
Okay, that's in the way. It's just painted stripes. It didn't sound the same. Can I ask a question? This motion says place a bike lane on the north running side of Veterans Road. When you were giving the motion, I thought you were saying just painting symbols. Are you asking for this lane?
Yep, I'm asking for a lane such that it constitutes a line demarcating traffic and a bicycle figure on it, and emulating the specific area that I sent it to. I think WCAT has a picture, hopefully they'll be able to get it up, but sadly we don't seem to have it on the screen. It's a simple lane, nothing more, nothing less.
Council Cal.
So at the last meeting, DPW Director Calla mentioned that that's a very dangerous road. There's a lot of big heavy trucks that come down that road. He had come up with an alternative route for a bike lane. I believe it was going to go down River Road instead of Veterans Road. They felt that that was very dangerous. There was even somebody that was in the audience that said he rides his bike and he thought it was extremely dangerous to have a bike lane on Veterans Road. And that's a major roadway for a lot of the big vehicles going down to Deer Island. And so there was an alternative route that was explained and brought up at the last meeting, which I thought made a lot of sense and seemed like it was much more safe than the one that's being proposed.
Councilman Court.
I make a motion to refer this motion to the Public Safety Committee so they can have a hearing and invite Task, who's already looked at this, and the proponents of the bike lane, and have a hearing with all the necessary people and come back and report to us.
So this is an amendment to the motion?
No, it's a motion to send this motion to.
Well, we're currently considering this motion, Councilor Boncory. You'd have to either make an amendment or wait until this motion has been voted on.
I think you did make an amendment. Did you propose an amendment?
I don't think it's an amendment. A motion's come on for the first time. I'm making a motion to send that motion to public safety. It's not an amendment, it's a motion to send to public safety.
A motion has been made to refer to public safety. Do we have a second? We have a second discussion on this motion. Yep. You did, it's all second. No discussion?
Well, I'd just like to say, Council President, that it'd be a real shame to have this die a slow, quiet death in subcommittee.
Councilor, I'll say exactly what I said to you when you proposed this. Okay, I told you the process that I felt it should go through. Refer it to a committee, let them come up with a cost, let them do an analysis, and I know that you want to get this done yesterday, but it's not something that is, especially when it comes to safety, because you're talking about something that's on a roadway, a very busy, this is a state road, Route 145. So this is not something that we should just, lightly entertain. It's something that really needs to be studied, and it's based on what happened at our last meeting and what was brought up about the safety concerns and so forth. I know you want this done yesterday, but I still think this should go to a committee, come up with a cost and a recommendation, whether it's a go or a no-go.
Pass the yellow woman, how do you talk to him?
There's a motion on the floor that send this to committee.
To Public Safety Committee.
Yep, to the Public Safety Committee. There's been a second. It's been discussion by Councilor Ponte. Further discussion? We had some discussion by Council President. Any further discussion before we vote on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of sending this to Public Safety Committee say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
I think it's 6-2. 6-2, the motion is passed.
Michael, I know you're waiting for me to make a motion, but you can't, because it's not on the agenda. But I will put your motion on the next agenda, okay?
Ron, could you also put on the next agenda to create an Eagleside Park Reconstruction Committee, as you previously stated to myself in an email? Mr. Faison. Thank you.
Okay, appointments. I gotta give this to you.
Council President?
My appointments here.
I'm not sure if this is the
This one's good. You reviewed all these? They're on.
Council President makes a motion to appoint Kyla Murphy, Winthrop Disability Commission.
Been a motion made, is there a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Council President.
Council President recommends Josephine Faca to the Airport Hazards Committee.
Second.
It's been a motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Council President.
Alicia Santoro for the Parks Committee.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Council President.
Thank you, sir. Public comment.
Dawn Manning, Precinct 3. So, the August 22nd transcript stated that the town and school committee has decided to move forward with Play Parks and Playgrounds, the same company that built Gorman Fort Banks Playground. Following the committee's direction, Superintendent Lisa Howard met with town manager to discuss funding. So, if the town already has decided to go with Play, which has built all the rest of the playgrounds, and according to Play's spokesperson, they have sent the town a preliminary design, and they have been waiting strictly for the funding according to Play, and nothing has changed, and the town has the design. I don't understand why there can't be an email sent tomorrow to Play that the town has got the funding and the equipment ordered. Depending upon the equipment, it can be anywhere from a couple days to, say, a couple weeks for the equipment to come in. I would know that because I had to order the equipment myself that went to the Gorman Fort Banks Playground. So, seeing that, I know how much the order can take and how long it can come in. It can take up to a couple weeks unless there was something specially picked out that needs to be hand and custom built, which I really doubt, because that would cost an extreme amount of money. So if we already have the funding in place as of tonight, we already have the preliminary design, I don't understand tomorrow why a call can't be made, the funding go through, the equipment may be ordered. Now, if it takes a couple weeks, then in that time, the playground could be closed. It needs to be completely gutted, dug out, prepped. That would give enough time for the equipment to come in, and the design to be laid out and measured like it's supposed to. Now, according to the meteorologists and the almanac, we don't tend to get our hard frost or hard freeze till sometime at the end of October, and we cannot pour a surface once it reaches in the 40s. So, if we have 2 weeks left in September, and maybe a good couple weeks in October, which I know we poured the surface at the Gorman Fort Banks in October. Why can't we do it for the ATC? It will be exactly 4 years if it's waited to be done in April. So I don't see how, if we already have a design, that it can't be ordered tomorrow. It sounds like I'm getting the runaround. The money's there, the design is there, why can't the order go in?
You want me to answer that?
Yes.
Basically, it's gotta go out, it's gotta go to a bid process. We just can't award it.
He's already said that you guys picked Play. It's already been
That was an estimate. Now we take that estimate and it has to go out to bid.
even
That's the
though,
problem.
We will, can I, through the council president, we will be working with the utmost expediency. I want this work done as soon as possible. If we can get it done and we don't have to put it out to bid, we will do that. We will be working as hard as possible to alleviate this concern. Just right now, they approved the funding. We now can take the order and tomorrow
work as hard as possible to get this alleviated as soon as possible. We are under complete understanding of your position on this, and I want to alleviate this problem as quickly as possible, as well as legally. That's all I'm looking to do. I'm just cautioning if we have to have a bid process.
What part has to go out to bid?
The whole thing, the whole project.
Even though it's already been posted in the transcript that you've already picked a playground company and their design?
I can't tell you what the transcript prints. I'm
It's
just telling
his
you.
words, sir.
I know, but
It's his words and the superintendent's that they published in the Winthrop transcript. They have picked Alti, Play, and Playground. It's in the transcript.
That is-
It is posted.
That is what the Winthrop Public Schools Building and Grounds Committee had approved, and they presented to the superintendent. That's what
And
they did
it's posted
earlier
in the
this year.
transcript that that's what the town has decided to go with, and that you guys are just waiting for the funding. So,
We are going to work on this as soon as possible. I'm truly not being disingenuous. I'm trying to alleviate this concern, and we want our children to be safe. That is what we're looking to do.
and I understand that, but you can see why the parents of this town don't understand when you print one thing in the paper a month ago that says, this is the company we have picked to go with, and now we're just waiting for the funding, and the company has already given you a design. You rejected the other design of the company that came in last year. They put out a YouTube video. It's out there for people to see, if people haven't seen it. I'll make sure I post it tonight. You're not going with that company. You stated in the paper. So I understand you have your legal bounds, but why would you put in the paper a full month ago that you've picked this company and you're going with it? So now you have to go to bid with it. So I don't understand if you're going backwards, picking a company and now going to bid with it. That's all I'm saying. It just sounds like a big hook.
anyone else wish to be heard? Jack?
Thank you, Mr. President. I jacked out of precinct 3, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. As far as the water storage facility at the Riverside Park, can we get a progress report of what's happening down there?
He did it during the town manager's.
Can we get a progress report to the public about what's happening and how much money has been spent? I don't expect an answer tonight. If you want to discuss it at the next meeting, I'd appreciate it. The other thing is, as far as the tennis courts are concerned, there are 2 cost estimates done by the contractor that built the tennis courts at Ingleside Park. They were given to the town approximately 2 years ago. One is in the vicinity of $400,000, and the other is in the vicinity of $600,000, depending on how elaborate you want to make this area. One of the biggest concerns for the tennis courts is the vegetation that grows through asphalt. So that has to be addressed specifically in the new contract. You just can't lay down dirt and tar, because the vegetation will come through the tar. So that has to be analyzed. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes, sir.
Just 2 quick items. First, with respect to the school and tennis courts, I was on the school building committee and I attended all the meetings, including the monthly meetings. And to my recollection, never, ever were those tennis courts were to be paved over as parking from the very beginning, even prior to the town approval. It was always tennis courts. Granted, the main focus was on the school. That's number one. And the other thing is, with respect to the shed, I was also the representative to go to every meeting on Miller Field. And when we needed the shed down, and they just couldn't get it down. They were gonna take it down. It was part of their responsibility. They couldn't get it down, so we said, okay, we'll take it down. Nowhere was it ever stated, to my recollection, that we would take it down and we would rebuild it. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes, Karen.
Hi, Karen Chavez, Precinct 2. The CFO gave you numbers on the center project, and she's going to give them to all the councils.
Could that be please posted
Sure.
on the town website and also the name of the contractor?
Anyone else? Yes, Mike.
Michael Demento, Precinct 2. Since Jack brought up the underground storage tank that Mr. Faison is proposing, I request this board direct the manager to solicit another company other than Woodward and Curran to give the town advice on what to do on Ingleside Park. I've submitted this manager and members of this council, Austin, how many? 3, 4 different engineering reports dating back to the 1950s of the Ingleside Park flood basin. This town has decided to go with a water and sewer project down in Winthrop Center, the CBD, where the town is going to upgrade the top of the Ingleside Park flood basin where you're not going where the outflow is. The outflow of the Ingleside Park flood basin is Donovan's Beach. So we're doing upstream before we do downstream, which is completely, well, it's Austin's plan. I just asked this town council to direct this manager to go with another company other than Woodward and Curran and go with the present design that he has chosen with an underground storage tank and do downstream before upstream.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Okay. Public relations to the council members, anybody? Oh, okay.
Mr. President.
Yes.
I just want to say my friend Tino Capobianco was recently chosen as the Massachusetts Association of School Committee Member of the Year across the state. And he's a good friend of mine, and I wanted to recognize him for that.
Good. Anybody else?
Council President.
Yes.
District Attorney, or Suffolk County District Attorney Rollins will be at Winthrop High School on Thursday, September 26th, from 5 to 7 p.m., having an open house at the auditorium.
Okay. And of course, this...
Council President, I'm sorry, I'm going to slow talk you while Rob and Rich look something up about the voter registration day that Mary Lou had recommended.
I get it.
Okay, all right, cool.
I didn't want to get scolded for not reading it. Anybody else? Okay.
Well done.
Of course, this coming Saturday is I Love Winthrop Festival at French Square, starting at 12 o'clock. And the 1st of October, we have a joint public hearing with the Town Council and the Planning Board regarding the CBD zoning. Also, the Winthrop Town Clerk and the Winthrop Public Library will help you register to vote Tuesday, September 24th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. At the Medcraft Square lawn. At the library lobby is the rain location. So if you want to register to vote, that's Tuesday, September 24th at the Public Library. This is also posted on the town website. And also, Winthrop Engages Climate Change, Wednesday, September 25th at 6 p.m. at the Hazlitt Room at the Public Library. Light refreshments provided by the courtesy of the Friends of the Winthrop Public Library. Again, Winthrop Engages Climate Change, Wednesday, September 25th at 6 p.m. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Second it?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Good night, ladies and gentlemen.